Michael, I want to bring to our viewers, we were talking there about the Secretary of State in Maine, a Democrat, as you point out, Sheena Bellows. This is part of how she's come to the decision. This is her quote. She says, "I don't reach this conclusion lightly." She says, "Democracy is sacred. I'm mindful that no Secretary of State has ever deprived a presidential candidate of ballot access based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. I'm also mindful, however, that no presidential candidate has ever before engaged in insurrection." Now, this decision can be appealed to a state court, and you can imagine Trump's team will be doing everything they can in terms of the legal avenues. But talk to us about the impact of Maine as a state. Ultimately, it doesn't have that many electoral votes, does it? It's one of those, you could hardly say the reddest of red states in America, is it?
No, it's not. It's a small state. It doesn't have that many electoral college votes. I don't see it being one of the 5 or 6 states that will actually turn this election. But it's the danger of the symbolism and how that may ripple out and how that may energize pro-Trump supporters and anti-Trump activists. So there are broader ramifications. And like I said, you can easily peg this as a partisan decision by a Democratic Secretary of State. But what it does is it, for the second time in about a week or less, it has brought to the fore that there are serious legal issues hanging over and threatening to drown former President Trump's nomination, even for the GOP primary, let alone the general election.
I was going to say, do you think this actually has any impact on that Trump base? As we head into the Iowa caucuses, we're about 18 days or so away from the first of those, the first votes being cast in these primary caucus situation we see in America. It's so different than our situation here. Does it have an impact on the Trump base, or this is all baked in for them, isn't it?
Yeah, look, the MAGA, Make America Great Again base, the Trump diehards, to say they're rusted on is an understatement. That said, recent polling has shown that there is a certain percentage within even the MAGA base that says if he's a convicted felon, he should not get the Republican primary, let alone run for president. And that's one of the other issues that the Supreme Court was asked to consider urgently this week, and they delayed it and they put it off until another day. And that's been brought by special counsel Jack Smith. He's essentially a royal commissioner in Australian terms. He has all the powers of a royal commission. And he's investigating the former president. In fact, he's prosecuting the former president for holding secret documents and betraying American high-grade military secrets, and also for the former president's alleged role in the insurrection on January 6th. Now, that special counsel went to the Supreme Court and said, well, we're proceeding. We know he's going to plead that as president, he had a special qualified privilege, that any act he took in office is protected. Could you please answer that for us now? Because we know it's going to come up. And the Supreme Court refused to take that up at this stage. And I can guarantee you, in all these legal travails, President Trump's legal team is going to wait for the very last day to appeal so that they can drag out the calendar as much as they humanly can.
Because we could find ourselves in almost unprecedented territory here. If he ends up winning the nomination through the Republican process, and then for somehow the Supreme Court decides he's not valid to be on the ticket, where does that leave us?
Well, that's uncharted waters. We're already in uncharted waters. America has never seen a situation like this. A presidential nominee, the likely candidate, the candidate designate, has been charged as a felon. Not once, not twice, but 3 or 4 times. Can you imagine in Australia if somebody wanted to run for Prime Minister, had been charged with an indictable offence and still said, look, I might get convicted before Election Day, but let's carry on with the campaign? That's what's happening here.